Take two. I'm going to try this again because it gets kind of tricky near the end. Sidney Crosby. So if you're a Penguins fan and you were wondering what's going on with Crosby, you may want to sit down for this if you haven't already heard that it's a sports hernia and he may require surgery. If it's surgery, it'll be 4 to 6 weeks. But from what I've seen with hernias, if you don't have surgery to get it fixed, it's constant and it gets worse. I had somebody, I have a friend of mine once that had a partial hernia, and the doctor just left him in pain and said, well, till it's a full tear, not much I can do. And it was just, he was in pain all the time. So, yeah, sports hernia is not fun, and honestly, if he has an option to have surgery, it would probably be better to have that done, just so then it's out of the way and it's gone. And that's probably best for Pittsburgh. You don't want this to be sort of nagging at him, and then in February he says, well, I'm going to go have surgery, and then he's not back until first round of the playoffs, if they get to the playoffs without Crosby down the stretch. Vladimir Sobotka is out 4 to 6 weeks with lower body injury. If you're a Sabres fan, you may feel happy about that. You may feel unhappy about that. You may be indifferent to that. I know he's been given ice time people don't agree with. I get it. Sobotka is one of those guys that you see the talent, you see all the pieces that you need in a player to make it work. And so it may be tempting for a coach to say, I'm going to throw him out there on that line because he can get it going. And with the other tools he has, if not for the offense, he can definitely help. And then the fans get mad because he's getting a top 6 spot. So we'll see how they do without him. Kostin has been called up by St. Louis. Apparently he's going to get some game action. I think it's interesting, too, that Armstrong came out, General Manager Armstrong came out and said that bringing in Brouwer and McGinn was kind of because, Kyrou and Kostin, he wanted to make sure they got time in the AHL and that they got to play, top 6 and get their game together before coming to the NHL. So if Kostin's getting called up, does that mean that Brouwer and McGinn need more time, or does that mean it's not working? Keep in mind that I remember that Brouwer had a tryout with Florida and didn't make the team, so maybe it's not working. But either way, St. Louis will have Kostin. He's supposed to make his debut in their next game. Brandon Sutter left the game last night between Vancouver and Nashville with a lower body injury. This is an injury that is troubling if you're a Canuck fan and you follow Brandon Sutter, which I do. The game that I saw between the Canucks and the Panthers, Sutter was fantastic. He may not get on the score sheet very often, but all the little things that he does in his own zone, his vision on the ice and that first pass that he can make, it's underrated. And so I get why he's overpaid. I get why people don't like his contract. But you know what? His contribution to the team does get underrated. It'll be interesting to see if he misses time. I haven't heard yet whether or not he's going to miss time. How that works. And of course, for the Canucks, we've got Roussel near ready to come back. Berchi played very well last night, got an assist. We'll see how their lineup looks after everybody's healthy, and it's going to be a very interesting time if everybody gets healthy. This is Vancouver. It's very rare that you look at a Canucks roster in, say, December or January and go, well, everybody's healthy today. Now, Minnesota, if you're looking for hope for next season, I've got some good news. Bill Guerin spoke with Kaprizov's agent, and he's going to be seeing the player, and it looks like there's a good chance that he signs with the Wild and he joins the team next season. Next season's the earliest he can sign. Looks like that probably happens. I would think having Bill Guerin over there to talk to him and, sell him on the idea of being with the Wild rather than sending over Paul Fenton to talk about how tall he is, probably the best option. And so this is where getting Guerin in as the GM looks smart. Bill Guerin he's going to be very good at this job. It's going to take him a while to start putting his stamp on the team, but once he does, I think you're going to see an improvement. And that may involve, a really miserable season for Minnesota this year just to get to a better future starting next year. And Kaprizov would be huge, especially if, let's say, they got Lafreniere as well. That would be 2/6 of your top 6 forwards, and both on entry-level contracts. That's a huge win. So yeah, we'll see what happens with the Wild there. Todd McLellan kind of muddied the waters last night. He was asked about Kovalchuk not playing, and he said he's just a healthy scratch. It's a day-to-day thing. It can change. The way I interpret that is, A, the Kings don't really want to play their hand that they don't want to play him, and B, if there's enough injuries, if there's the right injuries, he may very well find himself back in the lineup. And I get it. You don't want to come out and say, yeah, nah, he's done. You don't want to come out and say, well, I don't want to play him. Have you seen the way he's been playing? I can't stand it. I can't coach him. So MacLean doesn't want to do that. And we'll see where things end up with Kovalchuk as time advances here. But I don't think he's going to be in the Kings organization much longer. Whether that involves going back to the KHL, whether that involves going to another team that gets desperate enough to trade for him. I will say this. If you're a fan of another team and you're going, well, we could get Kovalchuk and his numbers would get better here, I don't think they will. He had a very good first week and a half. I think he had 6 points his first 3 games, and since then he's been almost invisible. And I mean invisible. Like, you watch him out there playing, and it's just not the same player. So he, is it possible that he could go to another team and start scoring? Maybe, short term. But long term, I really think this is who he is now. I think he is probably a 35, 40 point forward who's a little bit slower than other guys on the ice. And, his best days are definitely gone. It is a shame that he went to the KHL for 5 years. If he hadn't gone to the KHL for 5 years, we would be talking about a player who'd have, at least 1,100 points, around 500 goals. Like, we would be talking about, yep, this guy's Hall of Fame, absolutely, 100%. He has a Maurice Richard trophy to his name. He did help get the Devils to the Stanley Cup final. He has 2 50-goal seasons and 4 seasons of at least 40 goals during the dead puck era when nobody was scoring goals. Premier talent, and it is kind of sad to see his run with the Kings going like this because it does kind of tarnish it a little bit. Otherwise, yeah, I'd be like, yeah, he's automatic Hall of Famer. But we'll see. So, and again, this is where I recorded it and then I went, nope. I want to keep this as simple as possible. Don Cherry came out yesterday. There was an interview where he said I was willing to apologize. But Sportsnet said that wasn't good enough. Basically, you can apologize and then he wouldn't specify what else they wanted him to do. I think, and again, this is conjecture, I think they were telling him, just talk about hockey. Leave your personal politics out of it. And I think he said no. And from Don's perspective, it's probably a right move to say no. Not because I think that what he said was proper, because no, wasn't. But it's part of who he is. So if he's just going to sit there and, all right, there was this play, and done. All right, good night, everybody. I'm Don Cherry. I don't think people would have enjoyed it at all. So the people who hate Don Cherry will always hate Don Cherry. That's just never going to change. But for people who like Don Cherry, if he was just a stuffed suit just sitting there and only talking about the plays, I don't think he would have been happy. I think the fans would have seen it, and I think people would have really not enjoyed that. The problem is that he's, and again, when you're out of work and you're 85 and you've never been out of work before, it's probably really jarring for him. He did mention the Ron MacLean thing. I've seen a lot of this. And I'm going to say this same kind of thing that I was saying to my wife that then I heard Sid Sixero say. For Ron MacLean, when he's sitting there conducting the show, he's got the earpiece. The earpiece is telling him how much time you've got left, what you have to throw to and when, which segments are getting dropped. Like when Ron turns to him and he goes, well, we can't talk about that now, we ran out of time. That's because somebody in his ear told him. There's constant yelling in his ear. It's something that happens with wrestling too, where there's always somebody yelling in their ear. So when you hear them say something and it's stupid and you go, that was stupid, why'd they say that? Because somebody yelled in their ear to say it. I would not be surprised if Ron only half follows what Don's saying. I can sit in a room with my wife, we can sit and talk to each other, and we maybe hear half of what the other person has said. So, I understand a lot of anger towards him. Don's not happy with him right now either. He says they're still friends, but he doesn't understand that part of it. But Ron, as the conductor of all that and trying to get try to get Don Cherry from point A to point B to point C and get it done in 5 minutes or 3 minutes or however much time they have that night, that I'm guessing is stressful and it's a challenge. So for him, he's going, okay, I got to throw to this. All right, and then we got to wind this up. We got to wind this up. So that's, I know but that segment's over is kind of how, but again, I don't think this is done. I'm not going to put it in the title for this video. There are people saying I'm just defending a racist, and how dare I? All I was doing in that video is saying I have compassion for him, and I don't understand a corporation renewing his contract this summer when they knew exactly what they were getting. They knew exactly what they were getting. So I think there's blame to go around, and it's really easy to just look here, but I think there is some blame to go around. He's not going to get that job back. I know there's people signing petitions. No, we're going to stop watching. People talk about boycotting things all the time. It never really works. So I don't believe that their ratings are going to drop like a rock. I don't believe that an online petition is going to make a big difference. I know people are happy to sign it and they're excited to sign it, but it's not going to make. I've never seen an online difference make a big change other than when a show's been canceled, where you can say, oh, it got canceled, but look at all these people online want it back, so we'll bring it back somehow and do a limited run or whatever they do. In this case, that's not anything like that. So I don't know that we're necessarily looking at the end of this at all, because again, it exposes a divide. And it's a divide that occurs everywhere right now. It is everywhere. And so hopefully we can have a rational, reasonable discussion. But the assumption that there was somebody posted yesterday, well, Shannon, you just don't understand because you're not a minority. Okay, but, my senior year in high school, my friends were almost all Native. Because really, in all honesty, I could dress however I wanted. I could do whatever I wanted. I didn't have to worry about any kind of weird judgments. Kids are in high school. Oh, you're wearing those pants today. I didn't care. You couldn't care less. And they were just really chill. I used to, hang out with them. And it was fun. And then I had a job for 7 years working on in a plant. And a lot of my best friends were from the same family that was from El Salvador. They had immigrated during a lot of the really unpleasantness that went on there. And I had long talks with them about their country and why they had come to Canada and what things were like in their country. It was just awful. And really good people. They're all productive members of society. They all make good money. They also send some of that money back to family members that still live there. And I had a lot of respect for them that they were making ends meet. They were, absolutely paying taxes and all this other wonderful stuff, and all working full-time jobs, and still taking care of things back home, and being worried when they hadn't heard from a sister in a while, and we hope nothing's happened to her, but it could have. And it is a debate that gets oversimplified. And I think there's a debate to be had, and I would hope that coming out of this, there's something positive. And I'm not the person to make those decisions, but I am willing to have those conversations with people, because I understand as well that the connotation of you people come here. Because I've been on an assembly line with some of these people I hung out with, where they would be talking to each other in their language, and people go, and I would see people saying, you people need to speak English. And I'd be like, wait, what? I know that happened a couple years ago at a job where coworkers were talking during their lunch break in their own language, and somebody went over and lectured them on how you can't be doing that on lunch. So I was floored, and my jaw dropped about that, and I'm like, seriously? They got lectured at lunch while sitting at a table that was nowhere near somebody else who came over to lecture them on how they need to speak English in this country. At which point I kind of chuckled and said they could learn French and then start speaking French because that's an official language of Canada. But again, it is a debate that will always be there, and I just hope there's some positives out of it. And I really, I've been asked to, like, well, why don't you turn off comments on that video? Because then they end up on every other video. So they might as well be isolated to that one video and not go to all the others. But let me know your thoughts. And again, thoughtful debate's always encouraged on this channel. And, I really hope that can happen. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Again, I'm not putting this in the title. I'm not putting this in the title at all. Just throwing this in at the end as a discussion kind of thing. I'm not even going to put discussion in the title. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see where things go from here. And I know there's a lot of NHLers that have been asked. There are some that have said, yep, totally agree with him being out of a job. And I've seen others that have said, it's hard for me. I can't right now. So the debate occurs not just for us as fans, but for players as well. It's not that simple. But I'm sure there are people who do see it as just a very, very simple issue. And that's too bad, because there's more to it than just what was said on Saturday and what led to it and where we go from it. Okay. Thank you guys so much for all your time and your attention. Your thumbs up on my videos or thumbs down, whatever it is, which is perfectly fine too. And I will talk to you again soon, because we have to do the panic index.